Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya yato anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhignaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsuraya Tejo varimridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna swena sada nirastakohakam satyam param dhimahi Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amritadrava sanyutam Pibada Bhagavatam rasamalayam horaho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. We now enter the 23rd chapter of the 10th Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very beautiful chapter on the surrender of the wives of Brahmanas called Viprapatnis. So we saw towards the end of last chapter that Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys were roaming around on the banks of Yamuna. They went a long distance and the boys all felt hungry. So this continues now. So the cowherd boys address Krishna and Balaram and they say, O Balarama, O Krishna, we are very hungry. Please do something about it. They say, Rama Rama Mahavirya, Krishna Dushta Nibarhana, Esha vai bhadate kshutras tat shantim kartum arhata. So we are hungry, O Rama, O Balarama, O Krishna, please do something about it. So, hearing this request, Krishna speaks to them in order to shower his grace on the wives of the Brahmanas who are there. So Krishna knows that there is a bunch of Brahmanas, that is priestly people, priestly class people who are there in the vicinity and their wives are there. And he knows that those wives are supremely devoted to him. And in order to bestow his grace upon those wives, he now enacts a beautiful pastime. It says, Iti vigyapito gopair bhagavan devaki sutah bhaktaya viprabharyaya prasidan idam abravit. Viprabharya means the wives of Vipras. In order to bestow his grace, prasidan Bhagavan idam abravit. He spoke in this way. He said to the cowherd boys, "O boys, go to the sacrifice hall. There is a sacrifice hall nearby. You will find it easily, where there are some priests, Brahmana priests, who are very expert in Vedas, and they are doing some sacrifice. They are doing some yajna called Angirasa, which is meant to go to heaven. It says, Angirasam Nama Swarga Kamyaya. So these Brahmana priests are very mundane, materialistic in their knowledge of Veda. So there is a section of Vedas called Karma Kanda, which is ritualistic and which is only meant to attain heavenly abode, which is impermanent. One goes to heaven to enjoy for some time and comes back, and it doesn't result in true liberation, which is the realization of the Supreme Self within. So that is the Karma Kanda, whereas Jnana Kanda is the true wisdom portions of Vedas which reveal the essential truth of God realization. So these Brahmana priests are attached to Karma Kanda, to the rituals. So it says here, Satram Angirasam Nama Hyaste Swarga Kamyaya. They were Swarga Kamis, that is, they desired only heaven, and for that they were engaged in this Angirasa sacrifice. So he says to the cowherd boys, Krishna says, go there, you will find these Brahmanas engaged in this Angirasa sacrifice, and tell them my name and our brother Balaram's name, and tell them that we want some rice for eating. So thus instructed by the Lord, these cowherd boys duly, they always happy to follow the orders of Krishna, their beloved friend. So they all go there with joint palms to the Brahmana priests, and they offer their obeisances and then say, O Brahmanas, please listen to us. We are cowherd boys, we are friends of Krishna, and we are sent here by Balaram and Krishna. They are here not too far from this place, and they are with the cows, and they have sent both of us in order to get some rice from you. And they say that when they ask for it, provided you have it and you have reverence for them, you ought to give it, because you know what is right dharma. Also, they clarify to the Brahmana priest that you don't have to worry, because you are doing the Angirasa sacrifice, we know, because Krishna had told them all this. So the cowherd boys tell these priests, you are doing the sacrifice where it is perfectly all right to give the food, even if the sacrifice is not complete. And also, the Vedas say that one who is really hungry deserves to be fed. So, the Gopa boys are very well versed in the Vedas, and they are also instructed by Krishna. So, they cover all bases when they ask the Brahmana priest. They say, O priests, first of all, we know you are doing a sacrifice, and you ought to know that Krishna and Balaram themselves are here, not too far, and they have sent us. They ask for rice, and they have also told us that you will give us some rice for us to eat with them. And because they have asked it, and because we think you will have some reverence towards them, we would like to get some rice from you, and you don't have to worry about breaking the sacrifice, because according to the Vedas, anyone who's hungry deserves food, and it is Krishna and Balaram who are asking, and in this sacrifice you can give. So, despite giving this detailed explanation by the cowherd boys, who are very intelligent in asking the question the right way, the Brahmanas simply ignored them. So, this reflects the tendency of the priestly class sometimes, who are simply going by the letter and not the spirit. They only know the letter of the Vedas, they don't know the spirit of the Vedas, and therefore they are simply mechanically chanting the Vedas. And so they simply ignore whatever they heard from the Brahmana, from the cowherd boys, and these Brahmanas simply continued. It said the foolish Brahmanas who simply regarded their body as their self, they did not take notice that Krishna, the Supreme Being, is actually the one who is asking. So it says here beautifully, Tam Brahma Paramam Shakshat Bhagavantam Adhokshajam Manushya Drishtaya Dushprajna Martyatmano na menire. So the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahman, Bhagavan, Sakshat, Adhokshajam, the one who is beyond all senses, has come in the human form, and these foolish Brahmanas did not recognize it. They did not recognize that everything associated with the sacrifice is Krishna. So there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. That is, everything, when one sacrifice is, one does a Vedic sacrifice, the fire is Brahman, the ladle is Brahman, that which is offered is Brahman, the one who is offering is Brahman. So everything, the time, the place, the paraphernalia, the articles, everything is Brahman, and Brahman is the Supreme Being Krishna. So without recognizing that the very Supreme Being, who is the both the doer and the object of all sacrifices, is the one who is asking for food, the Brahmana priests ignored it, and they said no. In fact, they didn't even respond, so they didn't even have the politeness to say no. They just ignored the cowherd boys, which is a very rude way of saying no. So the cowherd boys went back very disappointed, and they went to Krishna. It says, Gopa Nirasha Pratyetya Tato Uchuhu Krishna Ramayoho. So they went to Krishna and Rama, that is Balaram, and with Nirasha, with disappointment, they told them that they were turned down. So Krishna hears this and he simply smiles, because he knows exactly, of course, what was going to happen. The whole purpose of this pastime is not to get food from the priests, but to reveal the devotion of the wives of the priests. So we see again and again in Bhagavatam, right from the beginning, from the prayers of Kunti to prayers of Uttara, and through various episodes, and we saw the devotion of gopis, and now we see the devotion of the wives of Brahmanas. The women are so blessed because they have such natural love for Krishna with all their heart, and here that's going to be demonstrated. So once these boys come back, Krishna smiles and says, that's all right, this is all expected in this world. Krishna is telling them that there are many in this world who, even having enough wealth, will always say no. In this case, with enough food, they would say no. So now you go to the wives. The wives are there in the quarters behind. You go to them and tell them that I have come along with Sankarshana, Balaram, and tell them that, and they will immediately give you food. So accordingly, the Brahmana, the cowherd boys rather, they go to the Brahmana wives and they offer their obeisances. They say, Namo vo viprapatnibhyo nibodhata vachamsina. They say, Hail to you, O Brahmana ladies, please listen to us, we have been sent by Krishna. They say, Ito avidure charata krishnena iha ishita vayam. We have been sent by Krishna, who is not too far from here, and he is there along with the cowherd boys and Balaram. And so we would like to have some food because he is hungry, and all his friends, we all are hungry. Hearing this, hearing that Krishna is so near, first of all, they were so happy. The Brahmana wives, the Viprapatnis, they were so happy. They've been anxious to look at him. They have heard a lot about Krishna. They have developed love for Krishna in their hearts, just hearing about Krishna from the other ladies and so on. They have never had the opportunity to see him so far. And now they are completely seized with great excitement because they know that Krishna is not too far. So they don't care about anything. They have actually cooked food. While these Brahmana priests are engaged in the sacrifice, it is the wives who have prepared all the food and kept it ready to be offered after the sacrifice, but they didn't care about any rules, any regulations. They immediately packed all the four kinds of foods. It is normally said that there are food is of four kinds: that which is drunk, that which is chewed, that which is licked, and that which is simply sucked. So that is why Krishna says in the Gita too, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritah Pranapana Samayuktam Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. Chaturvidham means four types of foods are there, and all the four types of foods I alone digest sitting in the stomach as the digestive fire Vaishvanara. So here similarly the four types of food it's mentioned. So they take all the four types of food and they immediately march. They don't even hesitate. They immediately march and they are stopped now. So seeing them leave from the distance, the husbands, the brothers, the sons, even all the men, basically the priestly class men who are associated with these women, they are stopping them. So they are all seeing that their wives or their sisters or their mothers, even depending on who the men are, they are going away, not only going away from the sacrificial area, but they're taking the food that was meant for the sacrifice with them. So seeing that, these people stop, but they don't even care. So these Brahmana women, the Viprapatnis, are so devoted to Krishna that they don't care, they don't even bother. Normally, women, especially in those days or even now, in all traditional settings, families, they never violate the husband or the brother or even the son. But here they just don't care. It says here, Nishidyamanah patibir bhratubir bandubir sutaihi bhagavati uttama shloke dirga shruta dhritashayah. So the pati, the husband, bhratru, brothers, bandhus, relations, suta, sons, they ignored everyone trying to stop them. They just left. The ladies walked instantly along with the cowherd boys carrying the food with them, and they saw Krishna right there in the bank of Yamuna. And Krishna was presenting the most beautiful sight as always. He was in this cloud like complexion, wearing golden silk. He was wearing a garland of flowers on his neck, wearing peacock feathers, couple of lilies on his ears, and he was looking like the most beautiful dancer. He was standing with his hand resting on the shoulder of one of the companions, one of the cowherd boys, and he was having a lotus in the other hand and twirling that lotus, and he was having a beautiful smile on his lotus face, and his curly locks were flowing down on his cheeks. So he was looking ravishing as always. And as soon as the Viprapatnis, the wives of the Brahmanas, they reach that spot, they see Krishna and they start drinking his face with their eyes. He is looking like nectar. Their heart is set on him. They also have, just like the gopis of Vrindavan, these Brahmana wives to have such madhurya rasa, such feeling of conjugal love towards Krishna. They don't even care, just as the gopi women also, they don't care for any of the men in their lives because they know that the highest purpose of life is to have surrender and total love for Krishna. So they look at Krishna with all their heart, they drink his beauty with their eyes, and they look at the beloved one whose glories they have listened all this time, and they are now embracing him literally with their own eyes, and thereby they are shaking off the agony of separation they felt with him. Seeing them and realizing, of course, knowing full well that they have come despite opposition from all their men with the sole desire of seeing him, having given up all hopes of even returning, because once they have walked away from their men, they'll normally not be accepted back. So they have basically given up literally everything to come to see Krishna. This is the way of love. Total love is where no calculations are made, no plans are made. They didn't care what will happen after they go back. They know that full well they will not be accepted back. They didn't care for anything. They just walked out completely surrendering to Krishna. So, knowing this Krishna, the witness of all hearts, one who is situated in the hearts of all, one who knows everything, he says, "Welcome, O ladies, you are highly blessed, be seated. It is so proper for you that you have this longing to see me." And Krishna says beautifully, the wise who realize their true highest interest practice totally causeless, uninterrupted devotion to me because I am the self of all. Krishna very beautifully says here, Nanvadha mai kurvanti kushala swartha darshana ahaitukir avyavahitam bhaktim atma priyayata. So, I am the Atma Priya, I am the very beloved self of all, and therefore ahaituki avyavahitam bhakti means uninterrupted, causeless devotion unto me is to be devoted to one's own true supreme self, and that's what you have done. So what you have done is very proper, and because what else can be dearer than one's own self? Because everything we consider to be dear, including our body, our relations, our sons, our daughters, our family, possessions, is all dear only because of our self, and the very self is Krishna. So Krishna himself says here that you have done something very appropriate because I am the self of all, and you have come here with that love. Now you have to go back. He says he accepts their love, and he says now you can return to the sacrificial hall to your husbands so that they can also complete the sacrifice. Now immediately the Viprapatnis, the Brahmanas, wives, are all very sad to hear this word, because first they don't want to leave Krishna. Second, they also think that their men will never accept them anyway. So they tell Krishna, "Oh Krishna, we have come all this way now, not to go back. It's not becoming of you to utter such cruel words. First of all, you have said that one who has come to me will not return." So even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, uh, "Na nivartante." He says, one who comes to my dhama, he never returns. So the verse is, "Yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama." One who that abode to which one comes and never goes back is my supreme abode. So they quote that. They say, "You've said one never returns after coming to you, and that is why we have come, not caring about our relations, our men, and all that. And we have ignored everyone to just be at your lotus feet and to wear the tulasi that is falling off of your shoulders. And therefore, we don't want to go back. And not only that, neither our husbands, nor our parents, nor our brothers, nor our sons, nobody will accept us anyway, because we have violated them and we have opposed them and we have transgressed their authority and come here. Therefore, we cannot. So we have no other asylum. First, we don't want to leave you. And second, even if we do leave you, there is nowhere else for us to go." So Krishna says very benevolently, "Oh ladies, not to worry. Your husbands, parents, brothers, sons, everybody will accept you back. Don't worry. They will not be angry with you. Not only that, they will glorify you and they will approve of your conduct. And you also have to realize that what I meant is to abide in me." Krishna says very beautifully that it is not through physically being in my presence that you can be one with me. You can always be one with me by keeping your mind in me. So he says, Tan mano mayi yunjana achiran mam avapsyata. So by keeping your mind always transfixed in me, abiding in me, you never go back. That is what is the inner meaning of that verse, that you never, one who attains me never returns back, means one who realizes me in their own mind, in their own heart. For him, I am always there. For her, I am always there. So you can always hold me in your heart wherever you are, and also go back, and your husbands and your men will completely accept you, not to worry. Because Krishna, being the supreme being, he knows the hearts of all, and therefore he knows that the Brahmana priests will naturally realize their folly and accept it, and that's how he has arranged it, in order to reveal the greatness of the wives, the Viprapatnis. So, thus being addressed by the Lord, the sages' wives offer their worship and they return back to the sacrificial grounds. And just as they were told by Krishna, the priests, they don't find any fault with them. They accept them as if they are most welcome, and they are very happy to see them back. But one interesting and most beautiful thing happens there. There was one wife who was not allowed to go. So, as we saw, all the wives, when they left their respective husbands or brothers, they stopped them, but they did not bother about it, and they all left and came to Krishna. But it is said that one lady alone, she was forcibly held back. The husband held her hand and did not physically allow her to leave by holding her back. And it is said that that particular lady, that particular wife of the Brahmana, she mentally embraced the Lord as soon as she heard of this incident. That is when she heard that Krishna is there and all the other women are all going to see Krishna, and she was not able to go. She was physically held back. She instantly focused her heart completely on Krishna, and it is said that she simply left the body in that very moment. So we can see the intense feeling of loving separation that every one of these Brahmana wives had, and especially this particular Brahmana wife, who, because she was physically restrained from seeing Krishna, she, right where she was, she completely focused her mind on Krishna, her heart on Krishna, and in that intense feeling of separation, she dropped her body, and thereby her spirit became one with Krishna right then and there. In any case, all the other women, they went back to Krishna, they went back to their Brahmana husbands and brothers and so on, and they were accepted duly. And meanwhile, the food they brought was eaten by the cowherd boys, and then Krishna himself ate that food too. It says, Bhagavanapi Govinda Tena Avanena Gopakan Chaturvidan Ashayitva Swayam Cha Bubuje Prabhu. That the four kinds of food that was brought, he first made sure all the other cowherd boys ate, and then he ate last. And in this way, it is said that Krishna, imitating the ways of the cowherd men, he was living like a human, sporting in the Vrija Bhumi. Meanwhile, to complete this pastime, we see the regret and the remorse of the Brahmana priests. So, not only the Brahmana priests, they welcomed their wives back without any complaint, but they also realized that they committed a huge offense by ignoring the request of Balaram and Krishna. So they realized that all their study of Vedas is of no use, because the very goal of Vedas is Krishna, the supreme being. And without realizing that, they were simply caught in some silly sacrifice for going to heaven. So they realized, therefore, with great remorse and regret, that they had committed a great offense, and therefore they also perceive the transcendent devotion of their own women, and they are completely ashamed of themselves. It says, Drishtva Strinam Bhagavati Krishne Bhaktim Alaukikim. So their unworldly or otherworldly transcendental love of their own women folk for Krishna, seeing that, they were filled with remorse and they condemned themselves, And they said, what is the use of our birth as men in Brahmana clan? What is the use of study of the Vedas we have done? What is the use of all the sacred vows we have taken? What is the use of all the knowledge we have, all the pedigree we have? Because we have at last turned our face on Krishna, who is the goal of everything. Indeed, it is the Lord's own Maya that infatuates even the great yogis, that has infatuated us also, in that we ignored our true interest and fell for a silly ritual. So this happens many times. One sees this even now. There are many who are priestly class people who are simply caught in the letter and in the mechanical recitation of Vedas and not having any true devotion in their heart. At least these Brahmanas were very fortunate because their wives taught them. Their wives, by their supreme act of surrender, woke them up from their sleep, from their mechanical recitation. So these Brahmana men are now regretting, and they are speaking finally words of wisdom. They say, the Lord's Maya, which even infatuates yogis, has covered our eyes. Look at the devotion of our women. They say beautifully, look at the devotion of all these women. They have such devotion to Krishna, and the depth of their devotion cannot be understood by us because they have no fear. They were able to even let go of all ties and go. And look at the fact that they have done nothing like what we have done. They have not gone through the thread ceremony. The women don't have the thread ceremony that we have had. They have not gone through any purificatory rites that we have done. They have not performed any austerities we have done. They have not studied the Vedas that we have studied. They have not engaged in any virtuous activities like we have done. They are simple women folk who are devoted to engaging in all the activities they are meant to do. And look at the devotion they have, look at the love they have, look at the surrender they have. It is found, they have in them this unswerving devotion. They say here, Athapi Uttama Shloke Krishne Yogeshwareshware Bhaktir Dridha Nacha Asmakam Sanskarad Imatamapi. So their Dridha Bhakti, their unswerving devotion, despite doing no other practices, is something that puts us to shame, they say. So this is the lesson in Bhagavatam again and again. The Gopi girls, whose devotion we already have seen a glimpse of when they were glorifying Krishna's Venu Geetam, the song of the flute, or when they did the 1 month vrita for Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband, and when they completely surrendered to Krishna by being naked. And this is all only a glimpse as we lead up to the Rasa Leela, where they dance with Krishna in the highest transcendental glory. But here again, the Viprapatnis demonstrate the same love as the Gopis, the highest love of Madhurya Rasa, and they have no background in terms of scholarliness, knowledge, purificatory rites, and anything. They are only heart full of love. So that is why it is said that it is the heart full of love that is the only prerequisite for realizing God and nothing else. And this is demonstrated again and again in Bhagavatam, here in this chapter, through the Viprapatnis, or the wives of the Brahmana priests. So these Brahmanas are continuing to glorify their own wives. So as Krishna had told the wives have nothing to worry. He told them that your husbands and your brothers, they will in fact glorify you, and they will realize their deficiency rather than punish you in any way. And that's exactly what's happening. So they are here glorifying their wives, and they're saying that this unswerving devotion that these women have, we have not got an inch of it. The Lord, who has awakened through the words of the cowherd boys such loving devotion, but we simply were asleep to it. He sent for us first. He gave us the first opportunity by asking us, and only after that he asked the wives, and we were asleep to the call of the Lord, how silly we are, what has he got to gain? So then they realize, see, Krishna is being served by Mother Lakshmi. He is the master of all opulences. Does he not have ways to satisfy his hunger in infinite number of ways, or the hunger of the cowherd boys? Why does he have to send the boys to ask food from us? It is only to bestow his grace that he did it, but we ignored it, and then he gave the same opportunity to the women, our women, and they took the opportunity and they got the grace, whereas we, without recognizing that he is the very purpose of all the yoga, all the sacrifices, all the yajna we were doing, without realizing that, we simply ignored it. In any case, now they are awake to this, and so therefore they say, at last finally we are blessed in that our wives whose devotion has woken up also, and we are also now fixed in the Lord. They say, bhaktya yasam matirjata asmakam nischala harav. Because of the devotion of our wives, we have learned so wonderfully. We see how not only are the wives welcome, but they become the gurus of the husbands effectively, because they say that because of our wives, we have learned what true devotion is, and we have this unswerving devotion in Hari because of our wives. So they say, Namastubhyam Bhagavate Krishnaya Akunta Medhase. So they say, O Lord, we offer our obeisances unto you, the one who knows no obstruction. Our judgment was clouded by your own Maya. May you be pleased to forgive us and never infatuate us with this Maya ever again. So in this way, the Brahmanas offer their obeisances as well as their prayers to Krishna from where they are, but they still don't go to see Krishna, because it is said they are afraid of Kamsa, because we saw in the beginning itself that Kamsa was after Brahmanas. Anyone who's engaged in any Vedic sacrifices, he was killing them, and therefore these Brahmanas were afraid to move about freely. So they offered their obeisances to Krishna from where they were. So again we see how they are not blessed to even get darshan of Krishna because of their mechanical recitation of Vedas. And so finally they were woken up by their wives, but they were still not bestowed with darshan in this life. And yet they at least got the wake up call because of their wives. And we see, most importantly, the grace that was received by the wives of the Brahmanas, called the Viprapatnis. And the Viprapatnis thereby demonstrate again the highest surrender to Krishna in this chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.